Welcome to Sound Leadership with DJ, the podcast that explores all things leadership. If you're interested in learning from the best and the brightest mind in the world of leadership, you've come to the right place. As you know, each episode we dive into the journeys of successful leaders and find out what makes them tick. From their early days to their current roles, we explore the paths that they took to get where they are today. And today is no different. Ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelts because today we have an exceptional guest with us. Allow me to introduce you to Cassandra Fuller, a nursing home administrator who has been a recipient of the Spirit of the Detroit Award. With over 2 decades of experience in healthcare, Cassandra's accomplishments speak for themselves. Cassandra has an impressive work history that encompasses roles such as an activities and social services director, as well as an administrator, and lastly, a director of operations. But what really sets Cassandra apart is her unwavering belief that leadership is not a title, but a mindset that can be cultivated in anyone. She's here to share her game-changing insights on how we all can become exceptional leaders and inspire those around us. So buckle up and get ready for a ride that will change how you think about leadership forever. Once again, welcome, Cassandra Fuller. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us to talk all things leadership. When I saw your resume, when I saw your CV, and I heard a little bit about you, I was excited to bring you onto this podcast. So once again, thank you. Where are you based at now? What are you doing? Are you still a regional director of operations?
Oh no, at this time I am an administrator.
Okay, perfect. So what is the role of an administrator for our viewers that don't know what an administrator is?
Well, I always tell people that I train an administrator role encompasses 3 things: census, budget, and compliance. It sounds like it's small issues, but trust me, it encompasses a lot more. But that's the gist of it.
Perfect. So I want to dive right in, right? I'm talking to a person who got the Spirit of Detroit Award. So before we even get to leadership, let's talk about that Spirit of Detroit Award. How do you get that? What exceptional things have you done? Who is Cassandra Fuller, and how did we get this Spirit of Detroit Award?
Well, the Spirit of Detroit Award, is usually given to Detroiters, of course, who actually go out into the community and engage. So what I did for the facility that I work at now, I engaged the community with our residents. Our residents are a part of a bigger community. We did a clothing drive for a shelter. It could be feeding the homeless, just based on the population that we have in this area. We did a great thing during actually Halloween. There's a lot of children in this area who weren't able to get out, didn't have costumes and whatnot. And so we did provide huge candy bags to those children. They didn't have to have a costume. They weren't embarrassed, things of that nature. Also, we have up and coming going to a women's shelter. So we can speak to them there. We're going to bring our social worker there. We're going to do a clothing drive as well.
Wow. So you're really active in the community, and you're really leading this project, it sounds like. So this is why we have you on this podcast, right? So by default, what would you say?
Actually, wherever I go, I always engage the community.
Okay, perfect. By default, what would you say your definition of leadership? What is leadership?
Well, I think leadership is actually just being a great follower, because a leader, they don't know everything. To get this train moving, you have to have several pieces of what I call the pie. So if I don't give over to someone else with expertise, like in social work or in activities or the director of nursing, then that doesn't make me a great leader at all.
Okay. So what are some key qualities that one should look for in an exceptional leader?
Oh, I think the best quality is a great listener. That's the best quality. Unfortunately, a lot of people think that a great leader is somebody just who dictates what you should do or what you should not be doing. To me, that's not a great leader. A great leader for me is someone who listens and encompasses other employees' ideas.
Okay, so and I think you mentioned earlier being a follower. So talk to me about how you lead by being a follower and a listener, but you're still the leader. Talk to me about that.
So, if I'm understanding your question correctly, so a good leader for me is a person, if I know that the director of nursing direction she wants to go is a good direction, I'm not going to put my ego in it and say, well, I'm the boss. I'm going
Okay.
to acquiesce because that's an excellent idea. It's the best way to move. If we're dealing with the residents, that's the best way to move for the residents.
Wow. Very, very powerful statements there. And I like that. What you said was you set your ego aside. And I think sometimes leaders don't set their ego aside, and that can impair the business. That can impair outcomes. So, how did you learn your leadership skills? How do you craft your leadership skills?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I wasn't expecting. So, how can I say that? I think a lot of that, it comes from, it's not, to me, it's not learned behavior. Excuse me, it's
Yeah.
not something you learn in a textbook. That's what I should say. I think it's more so learned behavior, just by all your experiences that you've had before you became put in a position for a leadership role. I've been a senior before. So, for example, if I've been a senior, naturally I had a unit manager over me, a nurse on the floor, charge nurse, being my superior. And so I
Yeah.
know what I didn't like.
Yes.
I knew
Yes.
very clearly, very early on, what I didn't like. And I've always said, I'm not going to do this, that. Hmm.
Okay. So you believe that your past experience really helped shape and guide your current leadership practices?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, like you said, you've been a CNA, you've worked your way up to an administrator, a regional director of operations, and you've been on plenty of teams. Where do you see yourself in what is your place on a team? Obviously, once again, you're the administrator, you're the leader, but how do you lead a team?
Well, I think the best way to lead a team is by example. And I know it's an old adage, it's the truth. It's by example. I've been in facilities where maybe all the kitchen staff didn't come in. So I'm going to the kitchen. I know how to work the dish machine. I can't cook, but I know how to serve food. I know how to write a tray ticket. I know how to clean a kitchen. So it's wherever you can help, you dive in to help. You can't put yourself above the next person because if I don't have the kitchen staff, people won't be fed. So everybody has a piece of the pie, but we're equal in that pie.
I like that. I like that. So, what strategies are you using to motivate teams? Right? You like you said, you can go in the kitchen, you can assist them. You know what it's like to be a senior. How do you motivate these teams? I'm sure you go into buildings that are maybe don't have the best culture, right? So, how do you act as a change agent within an organization?
You know, I found that the biggest change agent that we could use to help culture change is it goes right back to listening. Because staff is telling you what they want. It's just, are you listening to what they want? Are you really hearing what they want? Are you turning it into what you want? No, let's see what they
Mm,
want. Let's see what we can do. It's a two-way street. The staff is here. We always talk about, for example, the seniors are the front line. But is that true? Do we really mean that? Because we all know in this society that brings about money. If I'm your front line and you don't know anything without me, how do I feel important? And in business, it's always money. And so if I can't give you the money, then we have to figure out other ways in how to do that.
I think
What
that's a
does
very
that look?
interesting. Yeah, and I was going to ask, what does that look like, right? That's a very interesting conversation, as we talk about, as you talk about the money, right? I know that margins in nursing homes can be very slim. So, sometimes we can't adequately give the raises that we want to give. And a lot of times
Right.
things are outside of the administrator's control, right? So, as an administrator, how do you motivate that team who maybe is post-COVID, right? They worked so hard during COVID. They worked short during COVID, and they work short currently, right? So how do you motivate a team without throwing another pizza party, right? I'll slide that in there.
Right.
How do you
Right.
motivate the team to just be their very best?
Well, first, I try to change the mindset, and even verbally, I don't like to use the term, short staff. I like to
Okay.
use the, we're just challenged a little bit, and
Okay.
just in using that, it speaks to something different. And so I use what I use for me. What always seems to work for me is I use my personality. Everybody has a personality, right? And for me, it's always been humor. It's always been, oh, if you make somebody laugh, trust me, they feel better in that day
Yes.
because I see you understand what I'm saying? I actually approach you.
Definitely.
I have a conversation with you. I might just have a bag with candy and chips and a gift card and just tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, I see you today. You did a good job. I appreciate you doing that. That works for me. I didn't think it did initially
Yeah.
for me, but it does. When somebody
Okay.
recently told me, Cassandra, I see you, I was like, wow, okay. It put me in a different space. So I
Yeah. Yeah.
understand it now more than ever, believe it or not. You would think I would have caught on to that a little bit earlier. It's just those words itself. I never used those words before, but I've always been a gift giver. So that part is easy for me. I might say, what, housekeeping did a great job. Today they deep cleaned 3 rooms. They're going to get lunch
Yes.
today, and it's never pizza. I don't give pizza for lunch because you can
Okay.
get pizza anytime.
I want to talk about some of the
Understand.
challenges you've had as a leader, right? Leadership is not all roses, right? So, can you talk
Now,
to me about some of the biggest challenges you've had as a leader?
I find that the biggest challenge of a leader for me, it hasn't been like budget or census or compliance. It's been managing people and their different personalities. So I've had to learn that I can't ask Miss Smith to do something in the same way that I ask Ms. Roberts.
Yeah.
It's all
Okay.
about being individualized in how you um, get a staff person to do what you need them to do. Now, some people say, that's a lot extra, Cassandra. It's a lot, it's extra. But you know what? It gets me familiar with my staff. Just like we have individualized care for our residents, at times we
Yes.
need individualized care for our staff. It's just what it is.
Wow. So that's interesting, and I want to dive a little bit more into that. So what I hear you're saying is kind of that new buzzword that's going around is like emotional intelligence, right?
Hmm.
You're treating each individual person individually. What works for one person doesn't work for the next person, and you picked up on that, and you use that to, I'm sure, improve outcomes and
Oh,
move the process forward, right? So when
right.
you say I want to dive a little deeper, how do you pick up on how you need to talk to X person versus Z person? How do you pick that up?
Well, first off, I'm very much a people watcher. That's just natural to me.
Okay.
Also, I'm a social worker. I found that I think I've always known what my gifts were
Yes.
very, very early. And I know one of my gifts are, I knew early, the people always come to me. They just gravitate to me for whatever reason, probably because of my humor initially. And then just through my experience, I'm not shy about, if I've experienced something you've experienced, I'm not shy about telling you about it. I'm trying to be like a
Okay.
vessel, tell you, look, no, that's okay. You can do this too. I never put myself like above anybody. People call me
Yes.
Cassandra, not Miss Fuller. It's just Cassandra.
Okay.
People don't have to say ma'am. Like some people like to say yes, ma'am. No, I constantly and consistently drive that we are the same. I'm no better than you. I can't do what I do without you. So that's me saying that without me saying it consistently.
Okay. No, I think one of the things I just picked up is you like to say you're no better than them, and you can't do what you do without them. And in our introduction, right, we spoke about your belief that exceptional leaders can be taught. You can grow them. So, and how do you pick the leaders that you choose? And how do you motivate them? How do you teach them? How do they learn to be an exceptional leader?
You have to. It's really on that. When I was a regional director of operation, I mostly hired new administrators because I know how hard it is. And also, they're a little easier to teach because they're more eager. Their willingness to learn. And then again, the hope of they'll give somebody else a chance when they get in, not necessarily a position of an administrator, but it could be the administrator hiring a new social worker. You know, in this business, when you hire somebody new, you are investing a lot of time. And as an administrator, 9 out of 10, you're going to be doing their work until they get up to par.
Okay.
So it's a sacrifice, you know, that you would make, which I think is worth it in the long run.
I think I definitely agree with that. So I think many people are afraid to get into leadership because they are afraid to fail. So maybe if you can talk to us about a time you failed, or give us, some inspiration to these leaders who are just afraid to put their hat in the ring because they don't want to be unsuccessful. They don't want to fail.
Right. So I guess I can take you back to when I first became an administrator. I had no RDO. I had nothing. And I failed in every way possible.
Wow.
But the one
so hold on. A successful RDO like yourself had failures throughout your career?
That was early on, yes.
Understand.
But I will tell you, though, that failure, if we want to use that word, taught me everything. Because I've been in a facility where I didn't know how to do a facility reported incident because no one ever taught me. So I learned through trial and error. And so when you start from that position, meaning no help, I have anybody to call, and you have to think and critically think and analytically think on your own.
Wow.
And still make mistakes and get it done. Oh yeah, I'm way ahead of it. And this is not being braggadocious. I am way ahead of the game. Because a lot of people, like my RDO now says, you never call me. I have no need to call. But if I need help, I'm not, egotistical. I will call. I don't have that kind of issue, but, I've been in 2 facility fires. Most administrators will tell you they've never been in a facility fire.
Wow.
So it's things like that that I've experienced that, a lot of administrators, they just haven't,
Wow. Understand. So as we get ready to wrap up, what information can you give to an aspiring person or a young aspiring leader, or maybe a person that just got into leadership? What information could you leave them with that will, maybe change the way that they view leadership, or now place their mindset into going into leadership?
I would say just keep pushing. I would say just keep in your mind. I don't care if it's your job. It could be your personal life. You are a leader in some aspect of your life. It's just unfortunate that people in general look at leadership because of a title or how much money you make. A single mother or father is a leader. When you're young, there's a leader of the pack. There's always a leader in something. And so if you know that if you led in something, which you 9 out of 10 have, just didn't recognize it as such, you could definitely do this as well.
Wow. I think some good talking points. Do you want to leave the listeners with anything else? I just appreciate your time, your knowledge that you brought to Sound Leadership with DJ. I think that leadership is important, and I think that your perspective of leadership is very unique, right? Starting as a CNA, working as an activity director, social worker director, administrator, doing the RDO, right? You've been through all facets of that healthcare continuum, and I think you definitely have a unique perspective. Anything else you want to leave to the viewers?
No, I guess I would just say, whatever it is that you want to do, just work toward it. And it may not be exactly what you want, but wherever you are in that journey is where you're supposed to be.
I love it.
Put that on a t-shirt.
I love it. Well, I'd like to thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'd like to thank you for joining us on Sound Leadership with DJ. We hope you gain valuable insights and inspiration from our conversation with Cassandra. Remember, leadership is a journey, not a destination. Keep striving to learn and grow and never give up on your goals. We wish you all the best on your leadership journey, and we hope you join us again soon here for more great discussion on Sound Leadership with DJ.